Om Sri Sai Ram. Hearty welcome to the last topic of this lesson on metals and non-metals. It is a very interesting chapter. Today we are going to conclude with some more important points on this. Before you do that, we will see the home assignments what we have given in the last class. The first question is define minerals. As we have discussed yesterday in the last class, the elements or compounds which occur naturally in the earth's crust are known as minerals. Ores are the minerals from which metals can be extracted profitably. So, that is why it is said all ores are minerals, but all minerals are not ores, because they contain some other sand, rocky materials and unwanted materials. That is why should be purified. Third one is gangue. The ores mined from the earth are usually contaminated with a large amount of impurities like soil, rock, etc. That is called gangue. So, it is very natural when you take anything from earth, the earthly material will be added to that. So, the metals will be while extracting will be invariably mixed with some other materials, impurities. That is what is called as gangue. And next question is name the metals which are found in free state. Free state means what? As it is, not in the form of compounds. For example, gold and silver and platinum also are the metals which are found in free state in nature. Yesterday I was telling you about that. In Karnataka we have gold fields in Raichur, Hatti and also in KGF. Silver also available in different parts of India, and especially South Africa is the richest source of silver. And next question is name the process of obtaining a metal from its oxide. The process is called reduction. We have discussed that yesterday. That is by adding carbon, namely coke, a form of carbon. As you know, carbon has got what is called allotropic forms. What is allotropy? It is the property of certain metals, non-metals, which exist in different forms, but the chemical property will be the same. For example, carbon has got crystalline form, as it is called as diamond and graphite, and also amorphous forms like charcoal and then coke, gas carbon, lamp black, etc., etc. They are called amorphous forms of carbon. So, this coke is used as a reducing agent in extracting metal from its oxide. The next question is why aluminum is used for making utensils for cooking. I think most of your house has aluminum because it is malleable and ductile. It is a good conductor of heat. One more thing is it has got attractive color, the shining color of aluminum, and also it is very light in nature. To carry from one place to another, it is easy, and also it is very cheaper also compared to other metals. Aluminum is cheaper because aluminum is also what one property called as anodizing. We have seen in the previous classes. Anodizing means forming a layer of oxygen oxide on aluminum, which makes it shining. And last question is name the carbonate and sulphide ores are usually converted to oxides. Why? because it is easier to obtain metal from its oxide rather than from carbonates and sulfides. That is all what we have given as homework in the previous lesson. Now, let us see what we have learnt so far. The first class we learnt about the physical properties of metals and non-metals. We discussed their position in the periodic table, why they are placed there, and the liquid metal. The only liquid metal is mercury, the only liquid non-metal is bromine, and also we listed out different properties. I do not want to discuss again. Then you have chemical properties of metals by the reaction with oxygen, reaction with water, acids. When you come to acid, there are three kinds of acids: hydrochloric acid, the salts are called chlorides; sulfuric acid, the salts are called sulfates; nitric acid, the salts are called as nitrates, for your just information. And most of the metals react with the acids, forming hydrogen gas in case of dilute acids. And solutions of other metal salts like copper sulfate, ferrous sulfate, and so on. And metals reacting with non-metals, that also we discussed. For example, most of the metals react with chlorine, forming the respective chlorides. They react with sulfur, forming the respective sulfides. They react with hydrogen, forming hydrides. So, that is all we have to discuss in the second topic. Thirdly, we discussed about ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are the compound formed by the transfer of ions. What are ions? Ions are nothing but free electrons. Where do you get it? They are found, or they are found in the outermost orbital of every atom. So, ionic compounds are formed by the transfer of ions, and the bond is called ionic bond. We have discussed it last year also, and we have listed all the properties of ionic compounds and also how they are formed. For example, sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, sodium oxide, magnesium oxide, and all that. So, that is all we have discussed in detail about that. Then yesterday we discussed about, in the previous class we discussed about occurrence of metals, and we called it as ores, and also I told some of the names of the ores also. Aluminum, the ore of aluminum is called bauxite. Aluminum of chromium is called chromite. Aluminum of copper is called cuprite or chalcopyrites. Like that, different metals. Manganese is called magnesite. So, the ores are converted into the respective metals by different processes. And yesterday we discussed about extraction of metals of low in the activity series. For example, mercury and copper. Mercury, how it is formed into from its compound, namely mercurous sulfide, and then mercuric oxide, then converted into mercury. And also copper also we discussed. And the second one we discussed was middle of the activity series, that is what is called as roasting, calcination, and reduction. They are the three steps of the middle of the activity. And let us come to the last in that, that is metals of high reactivity. So, once we just revise the flow chart here, I think all of you can see in the board, we have got concentration of ores. That also we discussed. Concentration means removing of gangue materials. That is done by hydraulic washing, passing a stream of water in great speed, or magnetic separation, and like that. That is called concentration of ores. Then these ores are extracted under three titles, namely metals of high reactivity like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, etc. The second one is metals of medium reactivity like copper, zinc, etc. Then metals of least reactivity like mercury. So, mercury we had discussed it and let us not go into details about it, and this also we discussed medium reactivity, namely carbon. There are two kinds of ores, one is called carbonate ore, another is called sulphide ore. For example, copper, the carbonate ore is called copper carbonate, cupric carbonate, and sulphide ore is called cupric sulphide. So, note the difference: sulphide, sulphite, sulphate. Sulphide is S, sulphite is SO3, sulphate is SO4. So, here we are telling about sulphide. So, copper sulphide. So, carbonates are purified or that is completely converted by the process called calcination, that is heating in the low temperature. Sulphide ore done by roasting, heating in a high temperature, and then they are converted into oxides of a metal, and these oxides are reduced by the presence of carbon, and carbon means coke especially. And there are some other metals also like manganese, for example, which are reduced by aluminum, presence of aluminum. And lastly, purification. Now, today we will discuss about extraction of metals of high reactivity, and in this case this roasting or calcination etc. will not be helpful because they are very reactive metals. So, what is the process? The process is called electrolysis, and here because they have more affinity for oxygen, therefore, we cannot obtain it by the process what we discussed in the previous class. For example, metals like sodium, magnesium, calcium etc. are obtained by the electrolysis of the respective molten chlorides. We have seen last year that there will be what is called electrolytes and non-electrolytes. So, here we have to take molten chlorides, solids will not decompose, either you must take a solutions or molten stage. So, sodium, magnesium etc. are taken out by the electrolysis of molten chlorides. The metals are deposited at the cathode and chlorine is liberated at the anode. Chlorine is a greenish yellow gas, very poisonous. You might have seen what is called bleaching powder. Bleaching powder is a product of chlorine only. It is used as a insecticide and it is used in bathrooms and toilets for just cleaning of the places because it is chlorine content. It kills germs, germicide. So, when you say electrolysis, there are three things you must note. One is there will be what is called electrodes. Electrodes means what? There are two electrodes. One is called positive electrode known as anode, negative electrode called as cathode. So, and the third one is electrolyte. Electrolyte is a substance in which electricity is passed. So, electric current, electrolyte, electrodes. So, these are the three electrodes you must note. Okay. Now, coming to electrodes, at cathode sodium gives out an electron, becomes sodium. So, here because the sodium outermost orbital have one electron, it gives out electron, it becomes sodium atom, and this sodium as it is positively charged go towards negative. And what is the negative called? Cathode. Because the rule of science, SIGNS I am telling, opposite charges attract, opposite charges repel each other, like charges repel each other, opposite charges attract each other. Sodium being positive ion, it go towards negative. The tendency like a magnet also, magnet also you have like poles repel each other, unlike poles attract each other. Sodium being positively charged go towards negative, namely cathode, and at anode chloride becomes chlorine gas, and the chlorine gas will go out in anode. So, the metal so obtained is not so pure. So, the impurities present in them are to be purified by what is called as electrolytic refining. And how it is done? You can see the beautiful figure there. Of course, the figure is about copper sulphate. They are one of the electrolytes that is used. Here the figure shows about purification of copper, and there are two electrodes you can see, one is cathode, another is anode, right, and there is a what is called a circuit, electric circuit. One you have key, means switch, then you have a battery with positive and negative, and then two electrodes, cathode and anode. The blue color solution is copper sulphate. If it is copper, you must take copper sulphate. If it is some other material like aluminum, you have aluminum oxide, or if it is silver, you must take silver chloride. If it is gold, you must take gold chloride. So, usually chlorides are taken, except in case of aluminum, we take aluminum oxide, also called as bauxite, dissolved in cryolite. So, there will be a tank there, and the tank will be usually made up of steel, because when current passes, that should not get reacted, that is why usually made up of steel. And here copper, silver, etc. are refined electrolytically. Why should be refined? Because on extraction they will be invariably mixed with some other metals also, like tin, zinc, etc., and there will be some impurities also. All these should be cleaned, and this process will give up to 99%, sometimes 100% also pure metals are obtained. In this process, impure metal is in the anode, and a thin strip of pure metal is in the cathode. There will be a question in examination usually. In the electrolyte refining, before the experiment, anode will be thicker and cathode will be thinner. After the experiment, cathode becomes thicker, anode becomes thinner. Why? And the answer is because on the cathode we have metals get deposited, and the pure metal will be deposited on the cathode. Okay. So, in this figure what you see, copper metal will be deposited on the cathode, and the anode, for example, in the case of silver, chlorine will go out. In the case of sodium, chlorine will go out, and here the sulphate will go out, and then will be impurities. There will be impurities will go to anode mud, and they will be collected below the anode. You can see in the figure that brown color thing, that is called anode mud. This mud is invariable because the impurity, that is why the process is done by the electrolytic method. Okay. So, electrolytic method in brief is passing of electric current through electrolyte through the help of electrodes. Okay. That is all, and here you get the metal almost above 98% pure. And then similarly, if you have any other electrolyte like that, the amount of pure metal of the electrolyte is deposited at the cathode, and the insoluble impurities will settle down as anode mud. That will settle down because it is heavy, it go down and come down under the anode. Now, we will see some other properties of metals. For example, you have corrosion, one of the special properties of some metals like copper, silver, iron, etc. Of course, in your house also you are experienced with some difficulties like this when the corrosion take place. So, what happens in corrosion? The surface of some metals such as iron is corroded when they are exposed to moist air. That is very important for a long period of time. This phenomenon is known as corrosion. So, here the moist air is important, that is why the corrosion takes place only in rainy season in case of iron, because in the rainy season, now we are also experiencing rainy season, you have moist air. There will be a layer of iron oxide in case of iron, that is called ferric oxide, Fe2O3 2H2O is the formula. In case of silver, a black surface will be formed in silver. Suppose you have silver article in your house, you can check. Similarly, in case of copper, a green layer is formed of copper carbonate. So, in general, corrosion is nothing but the formation of layers on certain metals like iron, silver, copper, etc. Now, there is a small activity, you can also experiment in your house, that is why it is shown here. You have to take 3 test tubes, namely A, B and C, and all the 3 test tubes should have a cork on the top. In first test tube, we have to take some water and we have to keep some iron nails. So, in the figure you can see 3 nails. In the second figure or second test tube, you have to take the nails dipped in water and a layer of oil also you have to add. Now, this water should be hot water, not cold water, and hot distilled water is taken, few drops of oil is added. So, what does it do? It cuts off the presence of oxygen. The oil layer what is there, it floats on water. And a third test tube, you have anhydrous calcium chloride, it is called drying agent. One more example you can think of is sulfuric acid. And what does it do? It removes the moisture that is present in the test tube. So, we have 3 test tubes, one half filled with water and nails, the second with water, oil and nails, and this in the second case the nails should be dipped in water. The third case we have nails only with calcium chloride. Okay. So, we have to wait for a few days. Do not complain that nothing has happened, as you are told we did the experiment, do not tell that. So, we have to wait for some days, say about 10 days. After that, what you observe? In the first test tube, there will be a formation of rust, R-U-S-T. Usually, when the boys or girls, when they go home, Swami says, the mind will be having rust, lust and dust. So, when come back from home after the vacation, this rust, lust, dust should be removed. How? By prayers, by service, by studies and so on. Okay. So, the rust it will take out the shining nature of metals, it will block the reactions and so on. So, in the first test tube we find a formation of a layer of iron oxide, a brown color layer is formed, and formula is ferric oxide Fe2O3 2H2O. And in the case of second, why there will be no layers? Because it is dipped fully in water. So, for rusting what is needed? One is air, second is moist air. So, in second one, even though moist is there is no supply of air, because there is a layer of oil at the top. In the third case, air is there, but there is no water content in it, because the water content in the third test tube is absorbed by the anhydrous substance. What do you mean anhydrous? Anhydrous substance is a substance which remove the water content. So, if there is no water, then there will be no rusting. If there is no supply of air, then there is no rusting. So, rusting takes place only in the case of moist air. Now, next question comes, how to prevent this corrosion? This can be done by painting. For painting, as all of you might have seen, they will use one before painting they should be scratched by the help of what is called sandpaper. I think most of you have seen it. First they scratch it and then they paint it, and then oiling also, in some cases they do oiling and greasing. Grease is a substance, petroleum product, which also helps for avoiding corrosion. And next one is galvanizing. It is a method of protecting steel and iron from rusting by coating a thin layer of zinc. So, a layer of zinc, if it is added to steel or iron, it is what is called galvanizing. Then anodizing, we already discussed about that in the previous class, nothing but adding a layer of oxide on metals like aluminum. And last but not the least, making alloys, ALLOYS. What is an alloy? It is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals, or a metal and non-metal. So, homogeneous mixture, all of you have seen mixture. In a house also your mother will prepare nice mixtures. Sometimes you purchase some stores also mixtures, and that is what about eatables. Here this mixture means when two or more materials and two or more metals combined in definite proportion, then becomes homogeneous mixture. If the proportion is not definite, it becomes heterogeneous mixture. So, alloy is nothing but homogeneous mixture of two or more metals. It need not be metals only, metal and non-metal also is okay. And then you may have a doubt, why do you want alloy? Alloys are prepared to make the metals stronger. Sometimes they are prepared to make the melting point less. In the case of solder metal, the alloy of lead and tin is made of, because of to reduce the melting point. And in case of brass and bronze, it made it to make it stronger. And also alloys are made to avoid what is called corrosion, and to make it attractive also, make it durable also. So, that is the purpose of making alloys. And the most famous alloys, the first one is called stainless steel. You have heard about stains. Suppose you have a ink dot on your shirt, immediately you will say, hey, what boy, you got ink on your shirt. That is a stain. And even in personality also, Mr. So and so, so good, so generous, everything very good they explain. Lastly they say, but he is lazy, that is a stain, but he is not active, he is not a sportsman, he is not a singer, like that. That is called a stain in the personality, right. Similarly, metals also, in steel also there are different kinds of steel, nickel steel, carbon steel, chromium steel, tungsten steel, and so on. But stainless steel is the most famous steel. I think in your house, every house will have a stainless steel in the form of a plate, a tumbler, a spoon, surgical instruments, and so on. Thousands of materials are prepared out of stainless steel. And what makes this stainless steel so important is, it is an alloy of iron, nickel, chromium. Chromium about 8%, nickel, chromium 18%, nickel about 8%, and remaining is iron with the carbon 0.05%. Even the small percentage of carbon also make this steel very hard, and it does not get rusted. It will have a shining luster, it can be washed, it is very durable, and so on. And you might have heard about gold. Gold means bangaru, what Baba calls. For good boys they say bangaru. So, the golden, you must become bangarus in the hands of God, right. So, gold used for ornaments will be usually 22 carats. The quality of gold is measured in terms of carats, and here 22 carats means the pure gold is 24 carats, and it is very soft. It will not be useful for making ornaments. To make it ornaments, they invariably add some percentage of copper, say 2 parts of copper, or sometimes silver, or some other material. Even a goldsmith, if his daughter's marriage is there, he will invariably add copper, because without copper, though gold cannot be used as it is. To make it ornaments, addition of copper is a must. And then you have one more, you call brass, alloy of copper and zinc. Copper is a good conductor of electricity, but brass is not a good conductor, but it is very strong in nature. You might have seen the plates, the idols, and many strong materials are made out of brass. Also you have bronze, alloy of copper and tin. A small percentage of tin is added to copper. Here you must note that they cannot be added as it is. It is to be melted off. Both metals, copper and tin, should be melted off. Then you only get bronze. And that bronze, you have seen many statues, bronze statues, and it is also very hard in nature. And together you have some more also. For example, you have what is called as solder metal. It is an alloy of lead and tin, because melting point of lead and tin is very less. Lead is also less and tin also less. When you made the alloy, it becomes still less. Why it is used? Solder metal is used as for soldering or welding purposes, because it melt in a very low temperature. Now also you have so many other alloys also, like duraluminum. It is an alloy of aluminum, and that is used in aeroplanes and some of the vessels and all. You have alnico, it is a very good magnetic substance, aluminum, nickel, cobalt, and iron. And also there are so many others also like that. So anyway, the alloys will go a long way for preparation of materials of daily use, because of its special characteristics which I already told you. And one more interesting point, I think some of you have visited Delhi. All those who go to Delhi will definitely see Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar is a very interesting minar. Minar means a tower. Near that there is one iron pillar of about 8 meters high, about 30 feet, and weighing about 6,000 kgs or 6 tons, and it is there from 1600 years, not at all rusted even now also, because it is made out of the alloy of iron. We must appreciate the work of the artisans who done it the 1600 years ago. And even now also you can see in Delhi this iron pillar which is an example of an alloy which is existing from long days. And also you have one more thing, what is called as amalgams. Amalgam is an alloy of mercury with a metal, which is also very strong in nature, which is also important. And coming to homeworks, we have some simple questions. Which metal do not corrode easily? What are alloys? Give 2 examples. Copper is used to make hot water tanks, but not steel. Why? Okay, that is all the homework. I think you come prepared for this. Okay, wish you all best of luck. Thank you.